Alright, hello and welcome back to another deck profile, with this one being a little more ignorant, you could say. Basically today we're taking a look at Windwitch Majespecter. Now, I actually do have, this is another deck where I have a few different builds and kind of swing spots that I'm bouncing back and forth on, so I'll actually be going through those on screen. Now, and I'll end on the one that I've actually been liking the most here. So this is the one that I've been liking the most here. Now, obviously it's, Windwitch Majespecter. There's, that's a pretty, not prevalent deck, but that's an idea that's already been had, that people have already made here and there. But the addition of the new card Altergeist Multi-Faker actually adds an interesting layer to the deck, because running these 6 Majespecter spells and traps down here, there's a good chance that you're going to be searching one, and a good chance that you'll also have one in hand. And with a hand where you're just, say, normal summoning one monster, you're not going to be able to resolve both of those spells and traps. However, if you have a Multi-Faker in hand as well, you actually summon Siliquitus. I can never say this card right. You can tell me how to say it and I'd still say it wrong. But you can summon this from deck, and it's actually a wind spellcaster, so it gives you the chance to resolve one of your other spells or traps that you have set, where you have to attribute a wind spellcaster, and lets you bounce back the Multi-Faker to hand for the, obviously, kind of Kieran-esque effect there, which then lets you resolve the Multi-Faker once again. So it's a bit of a little, loop thing there that turns some of your spells and traps live, which I actually really like. Plus, if you want free wins online, all you have to do is resolve an Altergeist card, because I'll be real, I don't want to play against it either, even when I'm playing something like this. But getting into things more solid here, we have 3 QB, which is my favorite one in the deck. Just searches for a trap. It's the largest one attack-wise that we're playing. So with the field spells, it goes up to 1800, which means it's less likely to be swung over and things like that, which, with these being weaker monsters, is more of a problem with the deck, that they could say just normal something and then go ahead and swing over the monster you have on field to keep your spells and traps live. So that is my favorite one in the deck. However, we do have Ogama. Now, he sets a spell and trap directly from your deck to the field, which is relevant because that actually can't get hit by our dear friend Ash Blossom up here, because it's not actually adding it to hand, it's just setting it directly to the field. So I also will use him as Chain Link 2 a lot off something like Ties of the Brethren to prevent myself from actually getting hit by an Ash Blossom there. 3 Bambuku obviously searches, any other Majespecter monster, including itself, which is very good. It also often lets us grab the last scale that we actually need to go ahead and Pendulum Summon, with our only low scales actually being QB and Nekomata over here. So it is more high scale weighted. So usually we'll, summon the Bambuku, grab another scale, use Majesty's Pegasus down here, tribute the Bambuku, summon another one, pen summon some stuff back. So Bambuku is pretty much the best one in combination with Pegasus up here. It sets you up for next turn. If it was a 4, it'd be better because we could summon it off ties with our, main Surgers up here, but it's still definitely a, absolutely amazing card there. 1 copy of Crow, which is just a target for Ties of the Brethren, which searches our 1 Cyclone down here, which is basically a worse Tornado. And 1 Nekomata, same thing as a Ties target, so we could still resolve Ties on the level 3s that we have in the deck. And during the end phase, it'll just grab us something to hand, like a Bambuku or something that we can go ahead and use for next turn. And also, it's just another searchable low scale we have for the deck. Getting onto the actual power of the deck, we have the Windwitch package down here with the 3-to-1 ratio, pretty much standard there. Nothing that I really changed there. If you want to get greedy, you could put this down to 1 on Glassbell. But in this deck, I actually like having multiples, because since they're wind spellcasters, you can again use them to resolve your spells and traps down here, and they work with Majesty's Pegasus. So the kind of main combo is if you open Majesty's Pegasus and Ice Spell, which is just 2 cards, you can go ahead, summon the Ice Spell, summon these other 2, summon the Glass Spell, grab the Snow Bell, and special summon it. Then you can actually tribute the Ice Spell to summon Bambuku, and Bambuku will search most likely QB. You can go into your Crystal Wing, normal summon QB, and grab one of your traps down here. And then you actually just off of 2 cards have the Indestructible Crystal Wing and either a Solemn Strike or a, Majespecter's Tornado down here. So it's pretty good off of just those 2 cards. So that's pretty much why I like those. Again, if you just hard open Glass Spell, you can tribute it and search something else. You can also summon it off of ties, so if they out your board, you do have an Ice Spell ready to go. So 2 is pretty relevant in this deck. We have the Altergeist, which we pretty much already went over. Again, just adding a little bit of extra more stun to the deck with, Multi-Faker just being able to turn a trap on and get you the Siliquitus here, which is a bounce. So a lot of utility out of just 1 card there. And one of the most insane cards in this deck, we have Ties of the Brethren. Now, this is a card that came out and it was quite hype on a lot of things. Magical Musketeers were very hype on this card, even though it was after it came out. But it's a card that really hasn't done anything. In a lot of the decks that it fits into, just never really see much success. And I completely understand why, but holy fuck, this card is just insanity in this deck. So normally you'll do something like, summon an Ogama, set a spell and trap. And then you can go ahead and special the QB from deck and the Crow from deck, and you have 3 forms of disruption on your opponent's turn. Now, obviously, you're tributing off your monster, so it's not the greatest, but they are indestructible by card effects and can't be targeted, so you are more than likely going to be able to actually resolve those spells and traps that you had set. It also says you can't special summon for the rest of the turn, so you actually can go ahead and pendulum summon out some things with, usually you'll be able to, say, pendulum summon 2, then resolve a ties, and go even more plus off of that. It's just a very, ignorant play, you're just like, alright, ties, summon 2, set fucking 3, spells and traps that disrupt your opponent, and it's just a very strong play overall. We have Majesty's Pegasus, which you tribute a Wind Spellcaster type monster and special summon a level 4 or lower Majespecter monster from your deck. It has Kieran on it. We don't fucking use Kieran. Majespecters have always been the worst Pendulum deck to actually use Kieran, even though it's one of their cards because you actually have to tribute summon for it. So we don't talk about Kieran in this deck. But this card's obviously, it's a very even card. You're not, say, directly plussing off of it. But, on your turn, if they, out of your background, you just have a Majespecter sitting on the field and you don't have another one to normal summon or something, this does get one off the field, summons another one, lets you keep searching and going through your deck. It also works, again, very well with Benbuku and sets up your Pendulum summons very well because you can actually go ahead and take one off the field to get a search and a summon off of this, and then pen summon back the one that you actually tributed, which, although it's not searching again, it is putting another body on field to help resolve your spells and traps. Then we just have the 2 terraformings for that. We have my phone going off in the background. Ignore that. And we have the spells and traps. 1 Cyclone, which again is just a target for our Yada, which we summon off of ties. It's pretty much just a shittier version of Tornado here. You just target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it. Tornado is the same thing, but it's a trap and banishes a monster your opponent controls, which is obviously a lot better there. Although we could, draw into this, say, going second and still resolve it, so it does have that advantage there. And we have 2 copies of Tempest, which is a Solemn Strike for the Majespecter archetype, and these also all tribute a Wind Spellcaster monster to activate their effect there. Now, I'm going with the 3 Tornado and 2 Tempest, which honestly most people actually just do 2 and 2. Just because there have been a lot of times where I'll talk about the large ratio first. So I'm actually running 6 of them here, which with most people only running 4 seems like a bit of an overkill, but with how grindy some of the matches in this deck can get and how just many searches you can accrue a turn, I actually have found myself searching every single one of these and running out of targets, so I definitely like running the rather large package of them here. But because of the extra Solemn Strikes that we have here, I cut Tempest down to 2, since this is essentially a more free version of it, albeit unsearchable, and left Tornado at 3, so we have more of a chance of drawing into, any of our 4 strikes here, and more likely we'll be searching the Tornado, which I actually do like more in some situations as well. Just the fact that it doesn't destroy is a very relevant part of the card as well. And again, like I have in every deck where I go first, which I'm trying to make a lot of my decks because going first is just better. We have the usual Solemn package at the end there. The extra deck. Here's what you go into. Well, actually, I haven't gone into the Stardust, but I've gone into all 3 of these, and I've gone into Great Fly. That's it. I have this whole extra deck. I never really use it. You could maybe Electromite and do some chronograph stuff, but you're just, which does get them out of hand, and some of them, which is good, but you're going, you know, very, chronograph actually, unless you're replenishing those resources through, say, a Bunbuku or something, is quite a neg card. Like, it obviously puts stuff on field, but it out resources your hand very quickly. In this deck, just trying to keep it more Majespecter, you know, Windwitch focused rather than just being a generic pendulum deck. Running the stuff to make the free Electromite, at that point you should, you know, just be playing that new 60 card pendulum deck, basically, if that's what you're going to be going for. Boar Load, I think, came up once maybe when I was going second. I think like there was a Dark Planet once. I actually outed it with Crystal Wing, but I messed up and actually could have Boar Loaded it. Again, it's, you really just need the, at the bare minimum, the Crystal Wing, the Winter Belt, and the Great Fly here. The rest of it's just kind of showy there. Stuff that could come up, but we're probably not going to go into. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of the duels here. Getting into our first one here, we're up against the wings that are black. Black wings here, obviously. Why did I say? I didn't need to explain it. It's fine. Alright, so you can see down here we opened, you know, the Ice Bell. We don't actually have a Majespecter, but we have the Pegasus, we have Pen Call, because this is using the build with the Pendulums and Multi-Faker here. So we'll just go ahead and roll this one. We'll Ice Bell it. It's going to get Ash Blossom, which does happen a fair amount of time, but it isn't a death sentence for the deck, especially because of Majesty's Pegasus here. It's also just an added power bonus, not the main thing of the deck, so if it gets to Ash Blossoms, it's not the end of the world. We'll summon Ice Bell and he'll Transience for some reason, or Impermanence. I guess he thought maybe it's still activated even if you normal summon it, which it doesn't. It was just going to burn for 5, so it was a complete waste of the Impermanence there, but it does target, so he wouldn't be able to stop a Majespecter with it anyway. So we'll Pegasus, we'll summon out the Bunbuku, which will grab the QB. We'll go ahead and Pen Call, ditching one of the extra traps that we had in hand. Grab our 2 Scales, summon the QB, go ahead, search out the Tornado that we ditched, and have Tempest and Tornado here. Now we'll summon Whirlwind, he'll go for Boreal. We'll just go ahead and Tornado that, because then Whirlwind won't be able to trigger, and he won't have anything in hand to summon as well. We'll summon out the Ogama and the Bunbuku. Bunbuku will grab us another QB, so we'll go ahead, search something off Ogama, search something off the other QB that we summon, and we'll just be so set up at that point with, you know, like a double Solemn and a Banish, or a double Banish and a Solemn, that there's really not much he was doing to play through it. We also could have just searched another Bunbuku, made a Break Sword, and actually had some options there, but this is one of those decks where, especially with the Scales, that's one thing the Pendulum Editions did add, was just an easier access to Scales, although you do still do this with just the Majespecters a lot as well. It's just the access to be able to pen summon and just recur all those resources once again, especially with Bunbuku being able to add them to hand and such, and even just being able to pen summon one, most likely a Bunbuku or something, and then normal summon the one that you search, does get you, 2 on field with hopefully 2 set, which is a decent presence for the deck as well. For this one, we're up against Gishki here, actually, and I believe this is one, this is one where I was still using Upstart, but I changed that out for, I think, the Neko Mata as a ties target. But this is the, is this still, oh, this is the Pendulum Magician one, and ignore the chronograph. For a second I thought he was searchable. He's not searchable. So just, actually, was he one of, no, I think I still had the rest of the stuff in here. But again, it's that build, but we're not actually going to see that stuff, so this is really more focused on showing off the bits you can do with Multi-Faker here. So we'll go ahead and Upstart, which will actually get us into Ice Spell here, which, whew, this is actually going to show off the Majesty's Pegasus play as well here. So we'll summon the Snowbell, we'll go for Pegasus, we'll tribute the Ice Spell there, go ahead, summon the Bunbuku, search something off of that, go and do Crystal Wing here. Again, we could have set up Scales, but we would have just been pen summoning one, so it wouldn't have been that great anyway. And since we do have Multi-Faker, we'll be able to get more on board, so we'll just settle for the Ogama, setting a Tempest there. So if we go with the Crystal Wing, we're just going to let stuff go through, because I know he's going to have to be able to resolve the effect of the one he summons to actually out a Crystal Wing. So we're just going to keep letting stuff go through. He'll summon that. We'll just go ahead and hit that with the Tempest, because that will let us resolve Multi-Faker here, so we'll summon that. That will trigger and get a Siliquidus from deck. I'll add some stuff back, but we'll just go ahead, bounce the Multi-Faker back, put the Me-Star Boy back to hand, and then coming back to our turn, we can go ahead, normal summon, grab another trap, you resolve the trap on his turn, Multi-Faker, summon that, summon another of that, and we were just pretty much in complete control of the game there, and we probably wouldn't have been able to, like, yeah, we could have drawn into one, pen summoned, and probably just gone ahead and actually killed him there as well. And getting into this replay here, this one is going to showcase Ties of the Brethren here as well, and just what that does for the deck. And as you can see, we opened, Ogama as a target for the Ties. We have Bunbuku, the Ties itself, Multi-Faker, and Strike. So we're going to be set up fairly well here. And although only one of the replays has showed it, this deck does actually, again, function through Hand Traps and Ash Blossom fairly well. It's just the replays that I actually got for those are just not as good as some of the others here. So we'll go ahead, summon Ogama, send the Tempest. We'll use Ties of the Brethren here, summon out the QB and the Yada, which will grab us 2 more forms of disruption on his turn through Cyclone and Tornado. We'll set those, we'll set Strike, and we'll have the Multi-Faker ready to go as well. So he'll Terraforming for Hidden City, obviously up against Sub-Tiers here. He'll summon Guru, we'll go ahead and Cyclone that to draw out the Fiendus, which we can then go ahead and Solemn Strike there, opening up our Pendulum Zone again. We'll resolve Multi-Faker, we'll summon from deck, he'll pass, and we'll actually draw into another Bunbuku, so we can go ahead and normal summon, grab a low scale, go into Great Fly here, activate our scales, pen summon 2, search even more. We already used the one Crow target, but you can actually put enough on board to kill people fairly easily as well too, just because of the massive, board, or not board outing power, but you stop them from making a board, and then you can out the stuff they have through, you Tempest to stop the board, then you use Tornado and Cyclone and things to actually go ahead and out the cards they have left. And then a lot of times you can actually just put a whole bunch of little monsters on board and swing for game fairly easily there. And just, we have every single zone on our field filled up. Even if we didn't kill him, we'd have 2 banishes and a Solemn Strike ready for his turn. So it can get out of control very easily if your opponent doesn't have anything to stop it here. And also, one thing I really like is it plays around Torrential and Strike very well, because they can't actually be destroyed by card effects. Also, they can't be targeted, so it plays around Valor and Impermanence, things like that. So I actually think the deck has a decent bit going for it right now. But anyway, getting into the closing statements here. It's going to be very nice and professional. And I forgot Sky Cavalry in the extra deck. No, don't play Scott. Actually, no, you know what? Fuck it. Play Sky Cavalry. You have room. It doesn't matter. But yes, the pluses of the deck, again, none of them can be targeted or destroyed by card effects, so it plays around Dark Hold, Torrential. If you go ahead and summon one of them, they can strike it, but it won't actually be destroyed, so you won't get the search, but you still have the body on field, so if you hard draw one, it can still be live. Again, as you can see, it's just it's super easy just to open a lot of power cards here. You have Ties, you have Ice Bell. You can just go ahead and Pendulum Summon. You have all this back row as well if you don't open and just, outright overwhelming power card. I really like the art. That's something I actually didn't really notice with this deck until I started playing it. Is the arts? I actually think it's really good. It's not, like Multi-Faker and things like that look more like Yu-Gi-Oh! And kind of badass and stuff. But these, they're all just very well done and kind of interesting, and really do have character to them, which I really like about it. But yeah, the kind of faults of the deck, I guess, they're all very low attack power. Oh yeah, it also, again, plays through hand traps fairly well. Usually they'll stop like an Ice Bell or something like that, or, they could ogre the field spell, so there's some stuff that is going to hurt it, but nothing that really kind of outright kills it. Ogring the field spell would hurt pretty bad, actually. But that one actually hasn't happened here. But again, other than that, Valor and Impermanence, things like that can't hit it. There's no obvious Reaper target they can take out of the extra deck for it. So again, it has a fair few things going for it here. It's super ignorant. You just set up a bunch of back row and tell your opponent no, which I complain about in Altergeist, but I'm just kind of being a bit of a hypocrite here. But it's super fun for the play. It's super fun for the person playing it, I believe. So we can just forget about the ignorant part. But again, they're a little bit weak, so they're susceptible to being swung over. The fact that their scales are a little bit, and most of the ones we're going to run are high scale ones. You do have a decent many cards you don't want to draw. Like, you really don't want to draw into Yada or the Nekomata here. You don't want to see any of these Windwitches or the Quitus here. You don't want to see multiple ties. So there is some stuff like that, but again, it does have some options here as well, different builds and things you can try out. So it is something you can customize to your liking as well. But anyway, usual plugs: Twitter down in the description, Discord down in the description, Patreon down in the description. I don't feel like going through it all. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.